My name is Eloin, and I'm 33 years old. I used to think that blood ties were the strongest armor, but I never could have imagined that the deadliest blade would come from the very people who raised me. It was an utterly ordinary Tuesday morning at a tech startup in Wichita. Amid the rhythmic clatter of keyboards, my phone suddenly vibrated with a shrill buzz, a message that felt like an ice pick dipped in poison, piercing through every shred of my composure in an instant. We're on vacation in Miami with your sister Serene and her family, and there's not a single penny left in our joint account. Have fun continuing to be the sucker in Wichita, huh? The sender? My parents, Mabin and Yago. That casual, mocking tone hurt more than any vicious curse could. Every word felt like a red-hot branding iron searing a deep, burning mark into my heart. I clutched my phone tightly, my knuckles turning white as I barely managed to suppress the trembling. My fingertips rigidly tapped out the words, "I hope you have a blast," on the screen. On the surface, I was still alone, the one who wore a professional smile and served coffee at the client's office, but inside, it felt like a storm was raging in my chest, every breath bringing a shard-like pain. That account didn't just hold money. It contained the blood, sweat, and tears I'd poured into countless all-night coding sessions, the savings I'd painstakingly accumulated by turning down every social invitation, the hard-earned cash I'd gritted my teeth and sacrificed vacations to save, time and again stepping in to bail out fledgling startups. All of it had been for one single purpose: to keep our family's home from being foreclosed. They thought I was an easy target, a softie they could take advantage of, sitting comfortably in Miami, sipping champagne with my hard-earned money, yet daring to turn around and laugh at my foolishness. But little did they know, 3 months earlier, I'd already sensed something was amiss, quietly gathering evidence of their crimes. The innocent Eloin, who could only ever give without asking for anything in return, is dead. I've sharpened my claws and laid a trap so intricate it'll ensnare them all. Their Miami dream? It's nothing but a mirage, a fleeting illusion. And I, myself, will be the one to smash this illusory bubble into smithereens, making them pay the ultimate price for their cruel betrayal. This isn't just my story, it's a question I'd like to pose to you. If your own parents betrayed you like this, what would you do? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm eager to hear how you'd respond to such profound betrayal. 3 months ago, I started noticing something was off. My startup in Wichita was thriving, yet the joint family account, meant originally to cover my parents' Yago and Mabin's mortgage, was losing money at an alarming rate. At 33, I'd already poured thousands of dollars into it, staying up late into the night coding, tirelessly pitching to investors, and even giving up vacations just to keep the app running. Dad, Yago, kept urging me to pay more, claiming that the mortgage was putting enormous pressure on him. I chose to believe him, or rather I was willing to believe him. But his calls became increasingly frequent, and his tone grew sharper and sharper, as if my very existence somehow owed him something. One evening, while checking my account, I spotted a $5,000 charge from a travel agency. I froze instantly. My mortgage wasn't due for several weeks yet, and I'd never approved any travel plans. After digging deeper, I uncovered more records: hotel bookings in Miami, first-class airline tickets, and luxury car rental fees. When I realized all these charges had come from the bank card linked to Mom, Mabin's, my stomach twisted into knots. She'd never mentioned going on vacation, nor had my sister, Serena. I opened the banking app and saw that my balance was inexplicably shrinking week after week. So I started saving every single screenshot, every transaction, every withdrawal, leaving nothing out. Then, a cousin gave me a clue. He'd overheard Mom Mabin bragging about planning a big family trip. I logged into an old family group chat that had long been muted, and there it was, the truth right in front of me. Mom Mabin and my older sister Saren were secretly plotting a trip to Miami, even mocking me for thinking I'd never noticed the money was being siphoned off until it was already too late. My sister Saren wrote, "Don't worry, she'll only find out when there's nothing left." I saved that message, too. I clenched my teeth. I'd be damned if I let them keep bullying me like this. The next day, I opened an independent bank account at a different bank and transferred all the profits from my startup into it. Then I reached out to a lawyer I'd met at a social event, a sharp, capable woman who specialized in financial disputes. "If my family abuses our joint account, could you help me protect my assets?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady even though my heart was racing. She replied without hesitation, "Of course. Let's start gathering all the evidence." In my office, as we sipped coffee, I pulled out every piece of evidence, screenshots, bank statements, and those text messages that proved their betrayal. The lawyer nodded, jotting down notes as she spoke. "This evidence is very strong. If they take any further steps, we can file a motion to freeze the account." At that moment, I felt a flicker of control, a feeling I hadn't experienced in months. My parents, Yago and Mabin, had always favored my older sister, Saren. Her wedding, her house, her so-called perfect life, all received their unreserved praise. Meanwhile, I'd always been the one who worked tirelessly behind the scenes, the one who paid the bills yet could only stand by and watch them dote on my sister Saren. But now it's all over. After returning to the apartment, I continued my investigation and uncovered yet another transaction record, a deposit paid for the rental of a beachfront condo in Miami. I cross-referenced the group chat logs, and there I found a message from Mom, Mabin, who'd written, "This will be a trip of a lifetime. Just us and your family." Not a single mention of me, no invitation, and not a single word of thanks for the money I've put into your account. I printed out all the chat records, and by now, my hands had stopped trembling. Every evening, I back up the evidence onto a secure hard drive, knowing full well that I'll soon need it. One afternoon, Dad Yago called, his voice brimming with smug satisfaction. "Elowen, we still need another $2,000 to cover the house expenses." He said it casually, as if it were the most ordinary thing in the world. I pretended to go along with him, saying I'd check my financial situation, but I'd had enough of being their ATM machine. The lawyer had already drafted a letter demanding that they disclose the detailed information about the account. I sent it by registered mail, leaving no return address. Once they receive the letter, they'll definitely think twice before dipping into the money in that account. Sitting in my office, staring at the mountain of evidence piling up around me, I suddenly realized this wasn't just about money. It was about respect. Or rather, they simply didn't respect me at all. My parents, Yago and Mabin, thought they could take advantage of me, discard me whenever they pleased, and even laugh about it behind my back. My older sister, Saren, was an accomplice too, comfortably enjoying their favor without a shred of guilt. I'm no longer angry. I've become focused instead. They underestimated me, but I'm ready now. That joint account may still be active, but it won't last much longer, and I'll make sure of that. The next morning, my phone lit up with a message from my mother, Mabin. "Elowen, you've been busy all day with your little app. You have no clue about real financial matters at all." Her words were laced with a condescending attitude. "Just leave the account matters to us." I stared at the screen, watching the coffee on the table grow colder bit by bit. Her arrogance wasn't new, but right now it struck me especially harshly, almost like a challenge, and I was more than ready to take it head-on. Instead of replying, I logged onto the bank's website, found the credit card linked to our joint account, the very one they'd used to book our trip to Miami. With a few gentle clicks of the mouse, I reported the card as stolen and promptly canceled it, effectively cutting off their access to pay for both the flight and the hotel. By noon, my phone buzzed again, but this time it was my father, Yago, his voice seething with anger. "What on earth have you done?" "We're stuck at the airport." I could almost picture him pacing back and forth in the terminal, his voice echoing through the vast hall. I remained silent, letting their panic slowly spread. Back in my office in Wichita, I called the lawyer. "They've been using money from the account to pay for private travel expenses," I said, forwarding her Mabin's latest information. "Can we take action now?" She'd already been prepared. She was drafting the documents to sue them for misusing the funds. "We'll demand a full audit of the account," she assured me, her tone calm yet firm. I sent her every screenshot I'd saved, every single transaction, every text message proving their betrayal. That joint account was meant to keep the family home running, not to fund their vacations. The lawyer reminded me that this could get tricky, but I no longer cared. They'd crossed the line, and I wasn't going to back down, not one bit. Around 3 p.m., my sister Saren called, her tone sharp and accusatory. "Eloan, how dare you ruin our trip," she snapped, practically spitting out my name as if it were an insult. I clenched the phone in my hand, trying my best to keep my voice calm. "Saren," I said, "you knew perfectly well they'd taken my money, but you didn't tell me." She scoffed dismissively, claiming it was family money and that they had every right to use it. I didn't argue with her. After all, I'd already sent an email to the bank requesting that the account be frozen and any further withdrawals be prohibited. Mrs. Brownwin, the bank manager, confirmed that the freeze would take effect tonight, meaning Yago and Mabin would be stuck in Miami, unable to book new flights. On the phone, Saren accused me of being selfish, but I could detect a hint of worry beneath her harsh words.
Good.
They're finally starting to feel the consequences. Throughout the entire afternoon, I've been sorting through evidence, printing bank statements and Mabin's text messages. Then the lawyer called. She said the court could schedule an emergency hearing within a few days. "Your case has a good chance of success," she said, referring to our clear chain of evidence. I nodded, feeling even more determined. Mabin kept sending messages, each one bolder than the last, mocking my professional ethics and laughing at my obsession with startups. "You'll never catch up with us," she wrote. I saved that message too, adding it to the growing pile of evidence. Their arrogance became my fuel, driving me to act even faster. By evening, a family friend called me, saying he'd heard about the whole fiasco at the airport. Yago had tried to book a hotel using his personal credit card, but was turned down. His reckless spending had already left him deeply in debt. I wasn't laughing, but deep down, I felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. My parents, Yago and Mabin, thought they could pull a little trick, using my savings to treat themselves to a lavish vacation. Saren thought she could just sit back and bask in her parents' favor without lifting a finger. But I've turned the tables on them. The account freeze is just the beginning. My lawyer is already preparing a formal complaint, detailing every single unauthorized withdrawal. Sitting at my desk, staring at the mountain of evidence piling up before me, my heart was beating steadily. They underestimated me, but the court will give me justice. Their dream vacation is falling apart, and I'm only just getting started. Around noon, Saren's husband, Bevan, called me with an unusually sharp tone. "Eloan, you've gone too far. You actually canceled those cards," he snapped, barely giving me a chance to speak. "You've ruined our whole family's vacation." I leaned back in my chair at the Wichita office, my laptop open to the spreadsheet for the new client's contract. His anger didn't faze me one bit. I'd just seen Saren's latest social media post, a photo of her lounging on a Miami balcony, sipping a cocktail, with the caption, "Living life to the fullest, unbothered by the judgmental eyes of others." The post had garnered dozens of likes from her friends, but I noticed a few comments questioning the source of the money. I gave a faint smile, knowing the truth would soon come to light. Keeping my tone calm, I said, "Bevan, you know perfectly well that account was meant to cover our family's housing expenses, not to fund your beachside vacation." He stammered, insisting it was family money and everyone had a right to partake in it. Just then, Saren snatched the phone away from him, her voice piercing through the receiver. "Eloan, you're just jealous of our happiness." She snapped, pronouncing my name as if it were poison, she said sharply. I didn't back down. "Saren, I've got the proof. Your parents took my savings without my consent." I deliberately spoke slowly, then sent them a screenshot, a text message in which Mabin had been bragging about their Miami travel plans in the family group chat. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and then Saren whispered, "Things aren't exactly how you think they are." But her voice was trembling. She knew full well that I'd cornered them completely. By evening, the story had already spread. A colleague had overheard my call by accident and told a friend, who then shared the news in a local Wichita group chat. Soon enough, I started receiving messages from old classmates and neighbors. Someone asked, "Did your parents really siphon off money from your account?" Someone even sent me a message saying, "Michelle, you shouldn't have to put up with this kind of treatment." I didn't reply, but that support felt like armor, shielding me from harm. A family friend texted me to say she'd seen Holly's post and thought that such behavior was utterly vulgar under the circumstances. Public opinion is starting to shift, even though I haven't said a single word publicly yet. Instead, I've been pouring all my energy into my startup. Just this afternoon, a key client, Ms. Carter, signed a contract to use my app to streamline her bakery's ordering process. Later that same afternoon, she called me, raving about the demo version I'd sent her. "This is going to save us thousands of dollars," she said enthusiastically. I smiled as I took notes on her feedback and checked my emails at the same time. Another client, who'd seen my talk at a tech expo, reached out to schedule a meeting to discuss potential collaboration. Despite the constant family turmoil, my company has been steadily growing and thriving. I work late into the night, revising code, responding to emails, determined to keep my business on a strong growth trajectory. But Saren wasn't about to let it go. That evening, she posted another photo, a picture of a sunset over the sea, with the caption, "Family always comes first." As I scrolled through the comments, I came across one from a mutual acquaintance. "I hope your trip wasn't paid for using your sister's money, huh?" Saren's reply was vague and evasive, claiming it was just a misunderstanding. I saved the screenshot and added it to my evidence folder. My lawyer had warned me long ago to preserve every piece of relevant evidence, and I wasn't taking any chances. I sent her a message along with a new post. They're still flatly denying it. She quickly replied that the evidence from social media gives us a better chance at the upcoming hearing. The next morning, a neighbor brought coffee to my office and said she'd already heard through the grapevine about the farce unfolding in Miami. "Everyone's talking about it," she said, shaking her head. "Your parents, Yago and Mabin, always boasted about Serena's perfect life, but this time they've gone way too far." I nodded silently, saying nothing more. Rumors in the community were growing louder and louder, and I knew Yago, Mabin, and Serena were starting to feel the pressure. A cousin sent me a text asking if I was okay, saying Serena had called her, trying to twist the facts. I didn't reply, but I could sense that the situation was shifting. My parents, Yago, Mabin, and Serena thought they could paint me as the villain, but the truth was slowly coming to light. I kept focusing on my work, and around noon, I landed another new client, a local gym that wanted to use my app to manage its membership data. My team was brimming with energy. They had no idea about the turmoil at home, yet they were thrilled about the company's growing momentum. Sitting at my desk, I glanced at Serena's latest post, and her triumphant smile only strengthened my resolve. They thought they could silence me with humiliation, but the business I'm building is far more meaningful than their lies ever could be. The community's support has been an added bonus, but my real strength comes from the simple fact that I've already outsmarted them. The hearing is just a few days away, and I'm ready to bring it all into the open. That evening, I met up with my best friend, Win, at a restaurant, hoping to clear my head. The neon lights flickered softly as we sat in a booth. I told her everything, the accusations from Seelan, Bevan's angry phone call, and the whispers circulating in our community. Win leaned forward, her eyes steady and determined, and said, "Elowin, you're far stronger than they realize." She squeezed my hand tightly and added, "Don't let them drag you down." Her words felt like a warm current, striking straight to my heart. For so long, I'd been carrying the weight of my family's betrayal all by myself, but Win's warmth reminded me that I wasn't alone. She pushed a plate of fries toward me and insisted I eat something. "You're going to win this," she said firmly. I nodded, and a renewed sense of determination ignited within me. Late that night, my phone rang. It was my Aunt Lori, Mabin's sister. "Elowin," she said, her voice tinged with concern, "why did you have to get Mabin into trouble?" Did she ask, her tone sharp yet tinged with a hint of caution. I took a deep breath and forwarded her the screenshot of the family group chat, the one where Mabin and Saren had been plotting their trip to Miami, laughing at me for being kept in the dark and using my money to foot the bill. On the other end of the line, there was a long silence. "I had no idea things were like this," Lori finally said, her voice much softer now. "Mabin told me it was all agreed upon by everyone." I could hear the skepticism in her voice. "Aunt Lori, they took thousands of dollars from the housing fund without even telling me," I said calmly. She promised to talk to Mabin, but I could feel that she'd already begun to spot cracks in my mother's lies. The next day, my startup was buzzing with activity. Gwen, the baker, sent an email saying her customers absolutely loved the app's new feature. "Elowen, you're a genius," she wrote, attaching a contract for collaboration with 2 other branches. Word of the turmoil at my family's business had already spread locally in Wichita, but somehow, this very thing ended up boosting my business. A local news blog covered the story, portraying me as a vulnerable entrepreneur standing up against my family's greed. New customers started calling one after another, mentioning the article, and my revenue jumped by 10% overnight. I spent the entire morning training my new employees, feeling both excited and deeply focused, determined to keep this positive momentum going. After work, I checked Seelan's social media page. She'd posted a video from Miami, a montage of the beach, featuring herself and her kids, accompanied by the caption, "Family always comes first." The comments were mixed. Some praised her, but others, including our former neighbors, wrote, "I hope this trip wasn't paid for using your sister's money." I saved this video and these comments and sent them to my lawyer. Every single post is another piece of evidence proving just how arrogant and overbearing Celine was when she used my savings to pay for her vacation. I even found an earlier post, a photo of her and Mabin shopping for beachwear, dated just a few weeks before the trip. I filed it away, gritting my teeth, knowing full well that it would help establish their involvement in those unauthorized withdrawals. Later, when texted me to check in, "Are you okay?" I replied with a thumbs-up emoji, deeply grateful for her support. From the very beginning, she was the only one who saw through my family's facade, always pointing out their preferential treatment of Celine. I worked late into the night, organizing my evidence folder, screenshots, bank statements, and now adding Celine's social media posts as well. The new social media evidence gives our case a much better chance of success, the lawyer wrote in an email. "They're digging their own graves," she added. A calm confidence filled my heart. The hearing was drawing nearer, and I felt fully prepared to face them in court. The next morning, my lawyer and I walked into the Wichita courthouse. Yago and Mabin sat stiffly, avoiding my gaze, while Celine crossed her arms and glared at me with fury. Taking a deep breath, I sat down, ready to tell the truth. My lawyer was the first to stand up and clearly lay out the facts. Yago and Mabin had misused funds from the joint family housing account to finance a vacation in Miami. She presented bank statements, screenshots of incriminating text messages between Mabin and Celine's boastful social media posts, among them, a message from Mabin saying, "We'll use money from the housing fund. Elowen will never find out." As these pieces of evidence were unveiled, the courtroom's atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Yago made a brusque defense, claiming that the joint account could be used for travel, while Mabin lied, saying I had agreed to contribute financially. Even their lawyer tried to brush it off with an excuse of misunderstanding. My lawyer immediately presented the signed agreement, proving that the account was earmarked for a specific purpose. The judge clearly expressed dissatisfaction with their defense. Saren jumped up in agitation, accusing me of trying to break up the family and being jealous of her life, and was warned by the judge to sit down. I calmly retorted that she had knowingly withheld information. My lawyer promptly submitted video footage from the beach along with screenshots from the comment section, where Saren's remarks were questioned. The judge's expression grew increasingly serious. During the hearing, my lawyer refuted each of the other side's excuses one by one, presenting evidence that matched withdrawal schedules with travel booking dates. Yago attempted to interrupt, but was stopped by the judge. Mabin turned pale, and Saren fidgeted restlessly in her seat. I knew full well that the truth was now irrefutable. After the recess, the judge delivered the verdict. Assets in the joint account would be immediately frozen, pending an audit. Yago and Mabin were ordered to return the $7,000 they had misappropriated within 24 hours. Otherwise, they would face further penalties. The courtroom erupted in uproar, and Celine gasped sharply as the verdict was finalized. Stepping out of the courtroom, Yago muttered a string of curses under his breath, while Mabin pulled Celine toward the defeated lawyer. The lawyer praised me for my performance, and I realized that both the community and the court were standing firmly by my side. Although this battle wasn't over yet, I felt fully prepared to keep going. A week later, news broke. Yago had sold his beloved vintage car, and Mabin had pawned her diamond necklace to pay off debts. Meanwhile, Bevin had lost a crucial real estate deal because of the scandal, leaving him utterly disgraced in social circles. Longtime friends began whispering behind his back, accusing him of greed. Seelan shut down her social media accounts, her family's mortgage payments fell into arrears, and her lifestyle was on the verge of collapse. Her attempt to discredit my plan had utterly failed. Though I felt no glee at their misfortune, I was convinced they'd paid dearly enough for their actions. Soon after, Lori called to apologize, admitting that she'd been misled by Mabin and publicly clarified the situation on social media. Although her apology couldn't erase the hurt I've endured, it was nonetheless a step toward justice. Public opinion in the community completely shifted, and many people praised my strength. A local newspaper reported on my experience, portraying me as an entrepreneurial role model who stood up against family betrayal, a portrayal that brought our company a flood of new customers, boosting revenue by 15%. The team's renewed energy stood in stark contrast to the decline of my family. As I passed by my parents' old home, I noticed its lawn had gone wild, and their vintage car was nowhere to be seen. Neighbors told me they'd already withdrawn from community activities. Those who once tried so hard to curry favor with them now openly support me. One business owner even reached out to me proactively after reading the article, offering collaboration, and that only strengthened my conviction about the purpose of my work. Saren had once sent me a text accusing me of ruining them, but I didn't reply. Instead, I simply forwarded the message to my lawyer for use in an account audit. Focused entirely on my career, I secured a client from a rapidly expanding fitness chain, and the entire team celebrated this new milestone with great enthusiasm. Later, Lori dropped by with homemade cookies and said that although Mabin felt embarrassed, he refused to admit his mistake. After briefly thanking her, I ended the conversation. The community's support and the company's success were enough to sustain me. There was no need to dwell on the past anymore. 2 years later, I held a launch event for my new app at the Chautauqua Conference Center, where the venue was packed with investors and journalists. Ever since the court ruling, I'd blocked both my parents and Seelan, forging a new life free of betrayal and filled with remarkable inner peace. My company had become a shining example of success in Wichita. The media hailed me as a local hero, my revenue had doubled, and I'd even opened a second office. Standing on stage, I thanked my team, and the thunderous applause drowned out all the shadows of my past, proving that I'd built a career far greater than any lie could ever undermine. My parents had moved into a small apartment, their social circle had fallen apart, and they'd been forced to sell off numerous assets just to pay off debts. Seelan had once sent a letter begging for forgiveness, but after reading it, I tossed it straight into the shredder. Her apology came too late and felt utterly hollow. One has become my business partner, and we're preparing new AI features. Her loyalty gives me peace of mind. We don't dwell on the past. Instead, we always keep our focus on the blueprint for future development. Looking back, I've learned to protect what's truly mine, my money, my trust, and my energy. My intuition had long warned me about my family's intentions, and I wish I'd listened to it sooner. Their betrayal taught me to be independent, to walk my own path, and to stop relying on people who would ultimately let me down. I've turned the chaos they brought into a source of strength that propels me forward. This is my victory. Thank you for patiently reading my story. Share your thoughts. What would you do if you were in a similar situation?